The member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Well, thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, let's get down to the real hard facts of this particular resolution. Now, the resolution says that the residual stranded debt in 2002 was $7.8 billion. And Speaker, do you know who disagrees with that resolution? Speaker, let me quote to you from the 2010 annual report of the Auditor General of Ontario. Now, the Auditor General of Ontario, Speaker, in a section entitled Update on the Province's Stranded Debt, pegs the stranded debt as at April the 1st, 1999, at, wait for it, $19.4 billion. Not 7.8, 19.4. Says the Auditor General, and again I quote, "Initially, little progress was made in reducing the stranded debt." So that means that by the time, Speaker, our government took office, the stranded debt had gone in fiscal years in this way: 19.4, 2020, 20.1, 20.2, and finally 20.6 when we took government. Says the Auditor General, however, over the last few years, it has been steadily decreasing. Steadily decreasing. Now, Speaker, sometimes people will ask, what did we do before we had a stranded debt? And the best way to find out is to look at Hydro-Quebec or Manitoba Hydro. How do they finance the construction of their assets? Well, they do the same thing that the old Ontario Hydro did. They issue bonds. And those Ontario Hydro bonds used to be great financial vehicles. Now, in the dark rooms, late at night, perhaps through the haze of cigar smoke, as the former government was contemplating carving up the old Ontario Hydro, and the purchasers said, well, listen, we want to buy the assets, but we sure don't want those liabilities. What are you going to do with the liabilities? And they said, well, that's not a problem. We'll just stick it to the taxpayer. Which is what they did, $20.8 billion worth. So instead of being able to issue bonds, as the old Ontario Hydro did, the two new entities, Hydro One and Ontario Power Generation, were thus unencumbered by this taxpayer debt that was just sort of left on your electric bill and mine, and that's how we came to pay it. Now, Speaker, the Auditor General, and I'm going to again use the official auditor of the province of Ontario, shows how the debt has gone down, and I'm going to quote you in billions: 20.6, 20.4, 19.3, 18.3, 17.2, 16.2, and 14.8. Speaker, this is the current year. Now, Speaker, if you accept the veracity of the resolution brought forth here, the party opposite, the Progressive Conservative Party, has not merely incorrectly stated the amount of the stranded debt, they've cast aspersions upon the integrity of the office of the Auditor General of Ontario.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
Personally, I think I'm going to side with the auditor on this one. Now, Speaker, by the time the former Conservative government wanted to actually sell the generation and transmission assets of the old Ontario Hydro, the worldwide experience in private energy was the type that we saw in Enron and WorldCom, where people just took the money and ran. And what they did is just stick the taxpayers of their countries with debt after debt after debt.
Terrible idea.
So in addition to sticking the Ontario taxpayer with the worst of all possible worlds, in the end, they didn't even privatize it. So now, what our government inherited was a situation in which, after all of the Conservative tinkering, we had to fix it. That's why the stranded debt has come down year after year after year. That's why our power generation assets have been improving year after year after year. By the time they finished in government, Ontario was losing, not gaining, the ability to generate and transmit electricity. What were we doing in 2003? We were relying on expensive imports of U.S. electricity.
Expensive.
We were burning dirty coal. Our cities had to have backup generators.
Ouch.
This was disgraceful. Our power grid now is stable, it's modern, it's getting better, and Speaker, I have to conclude here with something people should watch for. This is the secret Conservative energy plan. It's got 4 points in it. Point number 1, blame somebody else.
Want to hear that?
Point number 2, take your generation and transmission assets and run them into the ground. Just do nothing. Point number 3, burn dirty coal. And point number 4, buy expensive U.S. power on the spot market.
Oh, here we come, Michel.
Now, Speaker, the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. That's what they did in the past. That's what they're going to try and sell Ontarians on in the future. And that's why, Speaker, this fall, Ontario is going to have its third straight Liberal majority government for a solid and stable power grid here in the province of Ontario. Thank you very much.